We've just released, matter of fact, the thing I'm talking about today, we've just had a release, a GA release of the solution, bringing it almost completely in parity with to the solution that we have on premise, the TrueSight operations management solution that we've had going back for years and years. One of the things Dick kind of talked about a little bit is how we start to merge these things called DSOM or DSOM, which is our new business unit. It's the DSO, the operations, and the DSM, the service management, and we've brought those together and really began to roll forward. This is a BMC strategy called the Autonomous Digital Enterprise, and the reason I want to talk about that is because whenever you see Helix in front of a solution, that means it's SaaS, and that means it is going to be based on this ADE platform where it shares common things such as user management. When you create a user ID for discovery, it's available in operations management or in monitor or in ITSM. When the AI uh, technologies that we use are shareable among all of the solutions. And so you'll be seeing AI, a consistent AI throughout the BMC solutions, the dynamic service models, the using the Victoria time series database. All of these things are just very common. So as you begin to expand out in your needs for your IT group, what you'll see is that the building blocks for that are already there. You're not building something from scratch. And that's our path forward. We rolled out our first SaaS monitoring capability back in February, March timeframe, and that was what they call TrueSight, Helix Operations Management. And we've built on that in this release that was put out just today, actually. What it did was completely change the architecture of the way that we've been doing things on premise and gave us, this is the future for all BMC products, is microservices architecture. Why is that important? Because it's written for the cloud to be run in the cloud, although we will be offering it on-prem over the course of several months. And so they will have the exact same code base on-prem versus the cloud. But it gives us that elastic scalability, meaning you don't have to, if you're having one server that's having a problem or one area in a server that's having a problem, in historic traditional on-prem solutions, you have to beef up that entire server. You can't just increase the number of nodes inside of a particular piece of a server or a piece of an application. That microservices technology gives us that ability. So if we have a lot of users that are coming in and we're having a bottleneck, we can scale out the user management server and then scale it back in. If we're having a lot of data being loaded out there, we could scale out the time series component and then scale it back when it's not necessary. So that is a huge performance benefit, but it also gives us enterprise grade high availability. We contractually offer 99.9% availability, which is a leading contractual offering. We often see our customers getting 99.99% availability just because of our active architecture in the solution. It's designed to be very fast time to value, so you can begin monitoring your environment and managing your environment in minutes and hours rather than days and weeks, as traditional operations management solutions go. It's got the monitoring and event management capabilities. I'm going to go into more detail on that, but it's that same console, whether you're the operator or the administrator, and it's that common platform so you can have shared access to, let's say, ITSM and from the same connection, so to speak. And so just depending on who you log in as, will determine what you have access to. It's all completely role based, but it's fully multi-tenant as well. As we did with the old on-prem stuff, we do both agent and agentless collection. But now what we do is, in addition to event ingestion, we allow you to bring in data from third party, just simply using API. So our data and event integration, our ingestion models are API driven. So let's take a look about the quick deployment. How fast, how easy is it? Well, if I want to just push out an agent manually, before I would have to download the install package, because we use a repository and we have an install package that's available, and you could have that as a part of your automation solution. We've integrated with our server automation solution to do that. But today, what you do is just you copy a download script and you execute that on, let's say, the Linux server. It will make an API connection up to the server, download the code, run the install, phone home, and apply monitoring policies. What you're going to find in this is we are very much policy oriented, whether it's monitoring policies, event policies, alarm policies, variant policies, or abnormality policies. And that's really designed to help the administration be very fast, very seamless, and very automated. As Dick was mentioning, the automation is just huge, because as the volume of data and the volume of things grow, managing these things is just becoming very burdensome. I was on a call about 2 hours before this one, and they actively manage 17,000 endpoints. Now think about that. If you have to manage that from a monitoring, just a monitoring standpoint, that is tremendous. How do you change things in the policy? How do you change passwords? How do you change the way I want to monitor things? What if I need to monitor it differently on some than the others? That's where your monitoring policies come into play, and they can have precedence, and they can have deployment requirements, say, based on search criteria. So when that agent phones home, the monitoring policy is pushed down to it, and it begins monitoring automatically. Well, how about stuff like your cloud, your public cloud, AWS, Azure, Google? What about your virtual environment like VMware? When you connect, I can be up and running monitoring an AWS environment completely with about 5 minutes worth of my time, where I enter in just some connection information. And then I tell it, these are the services that I want to monitor, and I can exclude some things. We've got some default stuff, but if I don't want to monitor certain things, I can exclude those. And then once that's done, I enable the policy, and that's all I do. It connects. And same with Azure and GCP. It connects to the environment, discovers the environment, and begins monitoring it. And anything changes into that environment will automatically be reflected in the monitoring. So if something goes away, the monitoring goes away for that. If something gets added, the monitoring gets added. If something changes the configuration, like more CPUs, it discovers that and automatically monitors that. Completely automated and completely without end user interference. So very fast time to value. Well, let's take a look at the advanced event management. Now, BMC has always been known as one of the top 3 event management solutions in the world. And we all did stuff basically the same thing. It was, it was the NetCools, it was the HP OpenViews, it was the BMC Event Manager. And we would get events in from something that had determined an event had occurred. And we would, you would write rules, you would code rules to make things happen to the event, whether it's enrichment or suppression or time things or what have you. And you could do very, very complex things, but you also had to be a coder almost to do those things. And we began to introduce some GUI components for very common things, but we wanted to completely move away from that. And while we still give you the ability to do, we've got some out of the box policies for enrichment or notification or integration directly into ITSM. If you want to integrate some things based off of a condition, then it's about 3 clicks and you can create an incident in the Helix ITSM solution. But with the advanced enrichment, and I'm going to look at that inside the demonstration, that gives you a GUI to create low code, no code rules and policies for that advanced analytics. So if this, then this, and then run a function over here and then do this. So maybe I want to trigger webhooks. Maybe I want to use timers and delays, or I want to deduplicate or correlate, and all of these things can come into play because of this new GUI based low code, no code technology, and it's very powerful, and that's a huge step above what we've been doing on the on-prem solution. So you don't have to be a coder in order to develop these rules. So again, making it easier and easier to be able to use. Another area that we've really expanded on is the variant technology. So historically, we have always done, or we've done since about 2008, univariant monitoring. So we would learn the normal behavior of a single parameter, and that single parameter, it would track that. When it goes outside of a band of normalcy, it would generate an abnormality. And you could use abnormalities to begin to look and see if things were outside of their band of normalcy. Well, the formulas that we were using and the algorithms were internally generated. We wrote them ourselves, and they were also a little old. And we decided that we wanted to make a move and make sure that we're using industry standard algorithms. And so we are using the standard univariate. We still have that today, and you can monitor individual parameters. But what we've added, and it's beginning to move us into the leading space in this area, is the multivariant anomaly detection. What that means is I can add all of my parameters, let's say for a particular service. So if I want to say, I want to look at SharePoint, and I can put all the parameters that are monitoring or tracking the SharePoint performance, I can put those into a multivariant policy, and it will begin to track these parameters over time and learn how they behave with one another. And when they start acting differently based on each other's behavior, then generate an anomalous event. And that is huge for being able to see how things are behaving together. Now you can create sensitivity. You can use the sensitivity controls to make it a lot tighter in what it looks for. So you get less anomalies, but they are more accurate. Or if you're just doing some troubleshooting, you can loosen the sensitivity controls. Now you'll get a few more anomalies, but you start to see how those things are taking place because the sensitivity control has been expanded out. So this was a huge piece of the release that we came out with today, and that's using the random cut forest algorithm to do our variant capabilities and our variant anomaly detection. Another area of analytics that we have that we didn't have in the on-prem solution is the event analytics. And what that is today, it looks like, is event clustering. So it looks at patterns in the events, and then it will cluster these events automatically using unsupervised learning. It will let you filter and see the things that may need to be looked at in order to write event rules or policies through the advanced GUI driven system. It may be that I want to create suppression rules or create deduplication rules, or maybe these are things that I want to start looking at orchestration policies for. And so again, trying to help me get a handle on and get an idea of the amount of massive data, and then start to make sense of that. And then finally, this is not actually finally, I got two more finalies before we go into the finally, but it is these persona-based dashboards. And we are moving away from the dashboard writing business. We are not doing that anymore. The industry has said Grafana is what we want to use as a standard, and so that's what we're going to be using. And we've rolled that out with this release. We are now fully Grafana, and we are over the next few months going to be rolling out our reporting capabilities against Grafana. One key thing that sets us apart in this capability is because while a lot of our competitors are using Grafana, they actually have to charge you per end user. We OEM it, and it's included in the license of our product, and so there's no additional use for getting the dashboarding, and then in the future getting the reporting capabilities. But what you get is all of the power of the Grafana capabilities with the plugins and those types of things. It is the common dashboard framework for all of the BMC Helix solutions. So now I can get data from operations management, event or data. I can get vulnerability data. I can get cloud costing data. I can get ITSM change management or incident management or problem management data. And whatever we have, the solutions that are in Helix, the Helix platform, because they're all written on that ADE platform, they'll be able to access, and you'll be able to view that data in a common dashboard. These dashboards can be exported and shared. They can be downloaded. So just a very, very powerful database dashboard writing capability. And then finally, one of the things that we've done with this release is we've had a log analytics solution for several years called IT Data Analytics, and it was an on-prem solution. We're getting out of the log analytics writing business as well. The industry is using elk stacks for that, and so we are moving towards that as well. And we'll be utilizing, or we are today utilizing, Kibana for the front end of the administration of the analytics, but we'll be doing the elk stack, the log, the Elasticsearch, the log stash, and the Kibana combination to be doing the log analytics using the Beats data collectors to be pulling in data from the logs and the machines. Again, using industry standard things that people are commonly using in the industry. So right now, I want to open it up real quick for any questions that we have right now. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into a demonstration for about 12 minutes or so, and then we can open it up for any other questions as we move forward.
Mike, just before you get to the demo, this particular product then is essentially replacing the old, and I may have this wrong, but I think it was called ProactiveNet, and then it became TrueSight. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
You are correct that it used to be called, part of it was ProactiveNet, and then part of it was Patrol, and part of it was BMC Event Manager, and those all combined to make ProactiveNet, and then we renamed it to TrueSight. TrueSight on-prem is not going away. This is the next generation of it. And what you're going to see, and I say it's not going away, the architecture and the old way of doing things are. So over the next couple of releases, you'll see the architecture that is in the SaaS platform, the Helix platform, be made available on-prem in the TrueSight version. So then you'll see TrueSight, and it'll be the exact same architecture, the look and feel as Helix, but one will be on-prem managed by the customers, and one will be in the cloud, and the infrastructure will be managed by BMC. Make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And we're doing that with our capacity optimization solution as well. We have Helix capacity or Helix optimization. We've got TrueSight capacity optimization. They're doing the exact same thing where they're merging that code base to be fully and completely microservices architect. So I've got about 10 or 10 or 12 minutes that I want to run through and just show you a couple of things and what those things that we talked about look like. And this is by no means going to be a huge in-depth demonstration. We can schedule some one-off things for you if you'd like to go into some depth on particular areas. But I'm going to start with the event clusters because I just think this is pretty cool here. That we've got these different bubbles that represent the clustering that is taking place, right? And we've got some of these are technology events. What I see over here is I've got this one. These two are bubbling up to the top. I'm going to take a look at that guy right there. If you notice right here, this is coming from a Twitter platform. In this case, we're monitoring our Twitter feed to find out what is the social media sentiment out in the environment. And so you're seeing that it's capturing, hey, this is, it's very slow, it's down, it's dead. And we're picking up on those types of things and clustering those accordingly. So now I go, hey, look, man, just based on that, it's almost one of those indirect APM kind of monitoring scenarios where I monitor end user experience. Now I'm just monitoring end user sentiment. And so based on that, I'm gonna jump over and I'm gonna take a look at my e-order application because people are complaining that it's down. And so sure enough, not just those 7 times, those were just the ones that are clustered. I've got some folks that are really making some big time complaints. And if I come over here to the top, I can start to filter these events by severity. So we've got ours configured to come in as Twitter events, just come in as informational. And then we've grouped those in with the things that have the tag of e-order. And I see I've got, I believe that's a MongoDB event that's coming in from Patrol. That's our agent-based monitor. I've got, I believe that's a Nagios event, and it's just sending in an event that is actually doing the data collection itself. We've got another Patrol event that's monitoring our Kubernetes environment. And I've got a cluster node there. And when I click on one more, I can see that I've got this is the Dynatrace event coming in that is monitoring synthetically, and it's detected a degradation, and I've got a high CPU utilization. So I've got all of my data right here based off of the grouping of these services. And so I can utilize this grouping capability to very quickly organize these events and then really start to look at what's causing the performance degradation. So from there, what I want to take a look at, I've got all of these things right here are true events, right? So these are completely these are events that I can do things on. I get a bunch of different components that I can bring in. Here's my tag for that guy. I've got that. Again, he's coming from Patrol. I've got the message, what kind of object. So a lot of information that can be acted on. And I can look at that and I can do traditional event management on these particular events like assign or close or take ownership. But what if I want to automate some things? So to do that, we automate through event policies. And again, we talked about a little bit about the monitor policy. We've got blackout. How do I know it's an alarm? What do I do when I find an alarm? How do I turn on the multi or univariate policy? And this is event policy. And I'm just going to look at one very quickly and look at the advanced enrichment. So we have rules of precedence, meaning do this one first and then do this one. If they both act on the same event, it says whenever something comes in that is an event. Well, my description tells me we're going to assign it to Alan Albrook if the location in the event slot is Boston, and if the category is availability management, we're going to change the priority to high. And so how do we do that? Well, we do that through the advanced enrichment. And it's again very much, my Mac adjustment is a little sensitive right there. We just put in an if statement. And to do that, you click on if and you say what your if statement is. And you have a lookup of the slot values and you can choose the various. It's just a pull down menu of the options of selection. And then if it's a free text, then you can free text that right there. Then what do? Again, I select the slot value and it's just from a pull down menu. I'm going to assign the owner a value of Alan Albrook, and we can even have it assigned to other events or run functions. And so just a very, very powerful thing. And I don't have to know how to code any of that. Well, if it's not, it just falls out. But you could have put, well, if it's Houston, assign it to Mike. If it's DC, assign it to Dick. If it's Austin or then assign it to somebody else, and just stack and build these things and just very much control who gets it, and it will automatically be routed to that particular person. Now, I'm just going to follow this logic again. Category, or I'm sorry, the slot value equals, and these are the available slot values, and those are from a pull down menu. Then we're going to change the priority to high. And I can't mistype that because this is what it's looking for, and these are the only available things that are out there. And again, things that come as a standard part of events can be pre-populated. Some things are like message or location. Those are free form text. And so this policy was created in less than 5 minutes. And so again, just showing you the power of the low code, no code capability, generating very, very complex event processing rules. All right, now I mentioned the multivariant stuff, and you turn that on right over here. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the multivariant because not a lot of time on the configuration because it's really super easy. You just say, if it's univariate, you pick one metric. If it's multivariant, you pick as many as you want to put out there. And then this one has 223 out there. So let's scroll down to the bottom. All right. And if I want to adjust, I could take the defaults, but I can adjust the how long does it have to be an anomaly? When it comes out, do I auto close? You'll see an anomaly that did that. And then here's how tight I want to set the thing. So I could make it more or less sensitive. And that's how you could create a multivariate or a univariate anomaly on a parameter or on an entire business service. So I want to look at what the end results of that are. Back over in the events, I'm going to look up RCF. And I've got several of these that have already been closed because they come in and then they go back out. I'm just going to take a look at one to show you what it looks like to give you particular pieces of data. And I see this one has about 5 or so parameters, 6 parameters 7, okay, that are out there in this multivariant policy. And it starts again to track these things on how they're behaving together and when things start acting differently or behaving differently. And I may want to zoom in right here to get a little bit more data or a little bit better view. And I see that right here, I had a major anomaly that occurred for over 5 minutes on my committed memory parameter. And then I see that after a little while, it settled back down and it came out of that status. When I look down here, I see that I believe I got, where is he? This guy has also jumped up, and he's also a memory parameter, right? So you see these relationships where the utilized memory has been jumping up in my virtual machine as well, and where it came back out of the abnormality or that variant state. We utilize this on our Skype environment when we were having some performance issues. We pulled all of the Skype data that we were monitoring, and we plugged it into the solution, and it pinpointed with the anomaly detections every time we had performance related issues. And so it gives us that little bit of heads up and that early warning that, hey, it looks like things are starting to begin to deteriorate a little bit. So let's go ahead and now jump over and take a look at, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you we do monitoring, right? I talked about it, and I said we do monitoring, and we've been doing monitoring since the early 1990s. And again, we utilize an agent in some cases, and so I've got about about 6 or 7 agents out in the environment. We're also monitoring, in our case, the Amazon environment. I didn't tell it to monitor any of these things. It went out and discovered all of these EC2 instances, and it will, and it's on one of these guys right here where I'm monitoring the AWS environment. It'll show all of my Route 53s, for example, or my S3 buckets if I want to monitor those, or my RDS. And so again, as the things come online or change, be added or taken away. And then the rest of my environment is monitored in an agentless fashion. And so if I want to take a look at some of the monitoring, this is just purely Linux, and this is basic monitoring. It's got CPU. It's going to monitor all of my CPUs. I think I've only got one on this guy. Nope, I got 2. So it's discovered 2 CPUs. If it adds an additional one, it will add that additional CPU for monitoring, and I can roll those up as well. It monitors the memory. It monitors all of my NICs that I have out, or my network interfaces, and then all of the storage that are out there. And so again, as we add additional things or take additional file systems offline, those will automatically either be detected as being offline, or if they're no longer a part of the system, they'll just be removed from monitoring if they've been unconfigured for monitoring. This is all done automatically. Once that policy has been set, the agent communicates back, and then he begins monitoring and will discover changes in this case, the Linux environment automatically. Now I'm going to wrap things up with launching into the Grafana dashboard. So this is completely integrated with that cross-launch capability. And so if you wanted to give or look at things in a dashboard that you've configured, you could, in my case, I cross-launch from that particular host right here, right? This TGLAO1, but I could very easily change that, and it's going to launch again in context. And this is an out-of-the-box view right here. So it's got the memory in a high-level gauge graph. It's also got it historically out here. Same holds for CPU and disk and network. And again, this is an out-of-the-box report that is available, and that cross-launched me right out there. Just as anything with Grafana, I can choose the time frames that we have, and if I need to go back further than what's out of the box, I could go back. Let's say 3 weeks, and it's as simple as that. And so very easy to do that as well. I could share that dashboard, and by sharing it, again, I can give somebody a link to this so they could put that out there. I could export that out, whether it be to a file or to with JSON, or I could just download it onto my own laptop. Another report that we have out of the box is the event data report. And again, this is over the last 2 days, but this will show me the trends of my events coming into my environment and the top 5 CIs in my environment that have currently open events. And if I want to go back again, that same 3-week period, I can, and you'll see how those start to really expand and change out. And all of these have drill down capability. Notice whenever I drill down into a time frame, everything on the graph changes from a time frame perspective, all of the things. And so I can control it I can control how far I go back over here, or kind of a time frame here, but I can also control it on my time series data graphs. And any of the graphs that are available to Grafana, the widgets are available here. So I can easily change these from maybe a gauge to a table to a heat map, or bar chart, a pie chart. And these are all just out of the box plugins that we have with the selection of open and critical events. Now I want to wrap up with the dashboard that I created just a little bit earlier today, because I wanted to show that application of the order system. And I did this dashboard in about 5 minutes. And it's just a super simple dashboard. I created this widget, and then I duplicated it to right here. And all I did was change the category, the severity from critical to major. I duplicated that, changed the severity to warning, duplicated that, changed the severity to info. I also changed the colors, so very easy to change the color palettes on these as well. And then I just said, hey, give me all of the count events in a time series fashion. And as I expand out, then I can drill down and see when these events are occurring over time. And this thing took me all of 5 minutes. Super easy to build, just to begin getting value out of that right away. And then I could build very complex and very cross-platform capabilities. So, for example, if I look over here, then I have, and I'm just going to touch on this, we're not going to show it, but we already got some remediate dashboards. So the cloud security that we saw, that I mentioned a little bit, we've got cloud security, we've got the automation console. All of these are based on the Helix platform, and all of these are available for consumption and cross-pollination of data. So with that, I want to go ahead and conclude the demonstration. And again, we're going to open it up one more time for questions.
All right. Nice job, Mike. I really like what you've done. Now would be a good time. There's a Q&A box. Feel free to go ahead and type your question in, and we'll get to it. If we don't get to it, we'll certainly email you back with an answer. But Mike, the one thing that I couldn't help but think of, because you started to monitor some of the social media, I think it was your Twitter feeds at the beginning of the demo. And all I could think of, if anybody happened to look at social media today, they would have seen that Tesla is in a great deal of trouble today, because apparently something's not going well. I assume their network must be down. Maybe they had a huge power failure. Customers can't access from their phone. They can't access their cars. The dealerships or the stores that out there, they can't turn in any sales. They can't check the status of what's going on. So this is not, Tesla stock is way down. So this is not a good situation. If they were using BMC Helix monitoring, what were some things that you might want to look at to see what could have caused this? And I guess the better question might be, well, if they had Helix monitoring to begin with, maybe this outage never would have happened, because they would have received some sort of advanced notice. Is that right?
Yeah, it's very possible. And thanks, Dick, for being one of the hardest scenarios, saying, hey, Tesla's having performance problems. Why? Right?
Yeah. Why is what happens to everybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is it's very possible, and kind of depends. I mean, without knowing what's causing it, it could be some kind of third party thing that they're having to go out and access, through a web services call. So I don't know that, but if it's something that is internal to Tesla, that is in their application, or that is in their network, then Helix Monitor absolutely can help that. We can look at logs, we can look at databases, we can look at servers, we can look at web components, so virtual machines in the web, or web services out there, and begin to correlate that in that multivariate technology, and start to say, hey, these things are starting to act differently. Go look at those, because those things normally behave like this, and now they're not. And so the short answer is it very well could, if it's something that is internal to Tesla, and that's, and I say internal, that is, managed by Tesla, whether it be in the cloud or in their data center, and is not out of their control, like doing a call out to, MasterCard to validate somebody's account, for example. Now, could APM Solutions detect that, hey, look, you got a web services call that's hanging? So we've got some APM solutions today that can do that. Yes, but a lot of the APM solutions can also do that as well.
Okay.
Great question.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, some of the comments that came back were, yeah, I'm not surprised because I worked on their network and it was held together with rubber bands, kind of a thing. So anyway, for a big company like that, it's just one of these. I can hardly believe it. Yep. But here's a question that came in. It says, is there an integration to BMC Discovery? And maybe a better question would be, what other integrations are there to other BMC tools from BMC Helix Monitoring that?
Yeah, great question. And so when we talk about the Helix platform, so we have the integration to CMDB and Discovery on the and the ITSM on the operations management, the true site. Then that's there in that on-prem stuff today. For the Helix today, our integration is directly with the Helix ITSM solution, and where you open incidents and it tells operations management the incident ID, and then you can, they communicate back and forth. And so when the event is closed, the incident can also be closed as well. And so you get that by-way communication going. We call that proactive service resolution. The discovery. And let me be clear on something here. So the discovery is actually morphing, because we have discovery in Helix, and we're moving away from sort of the standard CMDB service model concept to what we call dynamic service models. And so it's going to be a lot. While I guess the concept is the same, the deployment and the architecture and how fluid it is going to be a lot more fast in updating into all the solutions. That integration to discovery and dynamic service models is targeted for the first part of next year. So I wasn't going to talk about future, so I just mentioned some future right there. So let me say, as a disclaimer, don't buy anything based on anything I say about future stuff coming. But we have it targeted for a future release coming out in hopefully the first part of next year. And that is going to give us that direct integration with discovery and dynamic service models. Okay. As well as the orchestration aspect and everything.
Right. But Helix Monitoring isn't sort of a monitor of monitors, kind of, or manager of managers? Doesn't allow you the capability to look out and see what's going on pretty much everywhere?
Yeah. So Helix Monitor has the ability to monitor infrastructure from a data perspective. So collecting parameter data and then bringing that into the Helix Monitor architecture for processing, for learning of behavior in the case of variant policies, univariate, multivariate, but also it has the ability to bring in events from other third parties. So I mentioned, events from Nagios or App Dynamics or Dynatrace or SolarWinds or, any other third party monitoring tool that you want to bring and send events in. We can do that as well as data ingestion. And so we could bring all of that in to where it is now become the monitor of monitors, the manager of managers.
Yeah. Well, I like that. And, I guess that brings me to another question. I think that a lot of reasons that users don't like these kind of tools is because there's so many false positives, right? And I think that in your particular case, it's smart enough to realize what's real and what isn't real. Isn't that right? In terms of Helix?
Yeah. So now, does it have static threshold capabilities? Absolutely. right? We're not going to get rid of the ability for you to put static thresholds on some things, because there just may be some situations where you say, I don't want it ever to go above this, period, end of story, right? And that's a static threshold. We can do that. The univariate and the multivariate allows it to say, this is not normal. So, you know what? Normally, you run at 30% CPU utilization at 10 o'clock at night on this particular server. Now you're at 80%, or you're at 79. And I'll just give it to you like this. In math, the difference between 89 and 90 is 1, right? Now, if you're talking percentages, 89 and 90, it's 1%. But if you're talking about event management, if you're looking at a static threshold at 80, the difference between, or 90, the difference between 89 and 90 is whether you get an event or not. At 79 or 89, it's going to be green, no event. At 90, it's going to be red, generate an event. The difference between those two are negligible. So it's kind of arbitrary. Anomaly detection helps to catch those types of things. But it also, like you said, gets rid of a lot of false positives. We worked with Liberty Mutual, and they were having 15,000 Unix events per month, just on their Unix environment, 15,000. And we pulled it into and let it learn. We pulled that into our solution. We let it learn what's normal, and it reduced that event noise to 1,500 events. So an event noise reduction of 9%. And the other result of that is these events are actually actionable, because these are things that are not normal, that should not be taking place.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, you can sleep at night. And that brings me to another question here. It says, what is the software licensing model like? And I guess maybe what they're asking is this license based upon usage, or is it just a fixed price that you pay every month or every year?
Yeah, great question. So my boss told me when I hired on with BMC about 22 years ago, don't say 3 words, the F word, the P word, or the L word, right? F, free, P, price, L, license, right? I'm a technical guy. But I'll just very quickly hit the surface of it's licensed by endpoint. And so there's a cost per endpoint. In most cases, there's some exception to where we license them by groups and bundling, like serverless computing, when we start to deal with some microservices stuff. And those are kind of one-off serverless license that we SKUs that we have, but we do not consume by volume.
Okay.
For true site operations management does not charge by volume, period.
Yeah, because I've heard that some vendors out there do charge by volume, and as a result, it can get expensive. So what do? They just turn it off, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, right?
Yeah.
They're
very common with, let's say, the log analytics solution. So there's some competitors out on the market that do a very good job of log analytics, and our ITDA solution, and now it's just our log analytics component, does a very good solution as well. But they charge by volume of data logs that they consume, or by volume of events, and then it's really just entries in the log. Several of our competitors do, and we don't charge for data or volume of logs at all. If you can monitor an endpoint, you can look at the logs on that endpoint, and we can do analytics on those logs, and that's just been BMC's philosophy.
Okay. All right. Well, that kind of brings us to the conclusion, I think, Mike. It was just been terrific having you here today. Thank you very much. And thank you for those of you that tuned in to this webinar today. And again, we've recorded this. So if you need a link, we'll get that out to you, and then you can pass it around. And we certainly hope you do that. And we hope you have additional questions. If you want to take a private dive on your own, then we're happy to help. So you can certainly contact us. You can go to rightstar.com. and go to the sales link, and we'll be happy to talk to you about this. There we go, in more detail, and set up your own private demo, or at least have a discussion about what really might make sense for your own environment. So thanks again, everybody, for those that tuned in this afternoon. We really appreciate it. And Mike, again, great job. So from RightStar, we'll see you next time. And take care, everybody, and have a good rest of the day. So long.